Hi everyone, it's Catherine from Bello's Designs. I'm just checking in really quickly today with a fun and easy card that you can use for a masculine birthday or a thank you card or anything you might need using just a few limited supplies. Let's go ahead and talk about what we need to get started. Today we'll be using the SceneScapes from Lavinia, and I've chosen to use Twilight because I really like the look of the moon, and everything for this beautiful background is already prepared for me. So these do come in a package of 4, and you'll just need 1 to make this card. We'll be using a piece of black cardstock that I have cut down to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 inches. And then for my card base, I have chosen a piece of aqua cardstock that I have cut into 10 by 7 and then fold it in half to make a 5 by 7 card base for our project today. We'll also be using Magnus, which is LAV 638, and the Vine Branch, which is LAV 811, and then just a few other things to get us started. I have a clear stamp platform to use with my branch. I will also be using my Sweet Petunia MISTI to stamp Magnus because I just want to make sure that I get a really nice crisp image. And just a couple other things that we'll need are Versafine Clair and Nocturne is the only ink that I used for this project. I have a black micro pen just in case I need to touch anything up. And then I'll also be using my Signo white gel pen, and I'll show you a few tips for getting that to work really well. In addition to that, you'll need some sort of a paper trimmer. I like mine because it has a trimmer and a scoring blade on it. And then lastly, I will be using my Sweet Petunia glue press. Let me pull everything together and I'll be back. On my original card, I have chosen to keep this very basic because I'm working on making it a masculine card. So I didn't want to add a lot of glimmer or glitter. So I chose to keep that off of my card. But in the end, your project is your own and you're welcome to add any kind of sparkly, whatever you want. I'm just choosing not to go that route today, and I'm keeping it very simple and quick. Okay, so my card base is 6 by 6, and I want to cut it down to 4 by 6, but I really want to make sure that that moon is in the middle. So I'm going to use my paper trimmer just to cut off 1 inch from each side of my card base. And it's not a base either, it's a topper, but there we go. All right, and now we're ready for stamping, and I would recommend holding on to these little offcuts because they are really beautiful and colorful, and you may think of something that you could use them with. All right, so we are ready now to start stamping our base. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring my MISTI back in, and you all know how much I love my MISTI because I like the fact that I can wedge it right in the corner, and then if anything shifts or moves while I'm using it, I can simply push it back into that corner and re-stamp if I need to. But today I'm going to be careful with those magnets because they will stick together and break. But today I'm going to use 2 of my magnets, and as I said previously, I'm only going to stamp Magnus with my MISTI. So we'll get him right out of the package, off of this paper, and I'm going to stand him right in the corner where I know he'll fit. You could move it away if you wanted to, but I think that looks pretty good. So we're gonna go with that. So I'm just gonna close my MISTI to pick up my stamp. Here we are, and shift my little mat over here a bit. And let's just go ahead and ink up Magnus. And just once again, I'm gonna check to make sure that that is snugly into that corner. give him lots of ink to get him ready to stamp, and hope that we only have to do this once. But that is the best thing about the MISTI, is that you could do it more than once if you need to, and you'll get a beautifully stamped image. Okay. And it's stuck there just a little bit. I think I am going to stamp it a second time to make sure we get a nice impression. I've noticed that right in the middle, and I'm not sure if it's my stamp or some of the bubbles on the other side of the MISTI, but I seem to have a little bit of, I don't know, it's not a dimple, but I just sometimes have a little trouble getting a nice crisp image in that part of my stamp. So I find that I have to stamp him twice, but he's looking pretty good there. So I'm going to put the MISTI away because that is the only portion of my project I'm using that for. And let's bring in some scrap paper to use for padding to make sure that we're getting a nice crisp stamp. And I'm going to next stamp the vine branch, which makes a nice little tree. Now, if you don't have this branch at home and you have a different tree, feel free to use what you have. You can also just use some of the mini stamps. Some of the leaves work really well because we're not going to overdo it with the stamp. We just want to add a little bit to the edge of our project here. So I'm going to come back in with my Nocturne and just get that really well inked up. I really want to get a good image the first time that I put this down. I got a little bit on my block, so I'm going to use my chamois just to wipe that off. And if you don't have a chamois for your stamps, Bello's has some in their store, and they're really reasonably priced, and they're nice to clean off your stamps. So I'm going to look to frame the Moonlight with my branch, and it will be off the side of the paper, and it'll look somewhat like a tree. But I do like how my sample came out, so hope you like this too. There you go. Now there is a little bit of the branch that's not filled in. If you have a black alcohol marker or a paint pen that you wanted to fill that in with, then you're welcome to do that. I'm fine with how it looks, so I've decided to just leave it as it is. Again, this is just meant to be a really quick card. I'm finding that these Dreamscapes and Scenescapes are really nice for making cards on the go. You know, if you find out the night before that it's somebody's birthday the next day at work and you just want to make a little card or bring something in, or you've been invited to a party last minute, or you just, something snuck up on you that you forgot about, then they're just really nice for making a fast card that carries a really nice punch. Just want to fill in the little part of that at the top, so I'm going to come back in right here, and I'm pretty happy with how that looks. So I'm going to clean off my stamp so I don't have any accidents and just get that out of the way. All right, so here we go. That's all the stamping we're going to do on today's card. Now, the next step is going to be using this gel pen for some highlights. And I know that some people have a little trouble with it, but the trick to using the gel pen is to use a very light touch. If you push down on it too hard, it's not going to work really well. And I find that as I'm using it, sometimes I just need to get that ink flowing a little bit off to the side. Now, before I get started with my gel pen, I really want to blot my card because it is somewhat of a shiny surface on the Scenescapes, and I want to make sure that it's really dry because I don't want to smudge anything while I'm working on it. So I'm just going to stick it under my scrap paper and rub it a little bit. And I lost it in there. Here it is. Okay, there we go. And there it is. I think it's pretty dry, and that dried fairly quickly. So we're good to go. Now I'm just going to go ahead and highlight, and I'll probably fast forward so that you don't have to sit and listen to me talk while I do it. And then I'm going to come back and we'll put the card together, and it's really that simple. Okay, there we have it. I'm done highlighting. Like I said, I just don't want to overdo that. So here we are, and we are just about finished. So the next step really is just to assemble our card and put it together. And I do want to make sure that none of that smudges. So let me just blot that little piece off. See this? This is why it's important to blot your work. Just make sure we've got all of that together. Okay, now we're going to be using the Sweet Petunia glue press. I like to do a bead of glue just right around the very outer edge of my topper, and then a little bit in the middle to make sure it's stuck down really well. And if you don't have this yet, it does come with a stand that holds your glue in place and it keeps it from drying out. And I have left this here overnight and for a couple of days, and it's always fine when I come back to it. Sometimes I might need to unplug it with the cap that comes with it. But it's good to go, and you really get a lot of life out of that bottle. So there we go. We have our card matted, and now all we need to do is add it to our base. All right, and there's Magnus. He's nearly finished, but you know, I think I am going to turn this into a birthday card. And I was making birthday cards the other day, so I already have a happy birthday stamp mounted to one of my blocks. And so let's just go ahead and add that to our card front. Get up really well. When I put my stamps onto my blocks, I always use either my glass mat or some grid paper. This is just a really helpful hint. And I make sure that I have either the bottom, the top, or the side lined up straight against one of the lines in the grid, just to make sure that my stamp is straight and that when I put it on my card, I can line up the edge of my block to the edge of my cardstock or my card, and I know that I will get a nice straight stamped image. So there we go. Lined up right to the edge, and there's my happy birthday. So here we go. Here's the card that we made together today, and here's the sample that we started out with. And I told you this was going to be a quick and easy project. I hope that you will give it a try. I wonder what you might add to your project or how you might change it up. And I want to thank you for joining me today and let you know that if you are not already a member of our Facebook groups, please consider joining Del Bello's Designs Lounge, where you can share your projects featuring Lavinia stamp products, or Del Bello's a la carte for all the other stamp lines that Del Bello's sells. Bye and see you soon.